We are really proud to have him here. It's a pleasure. Joseph Pine 2. Take it away.
Thank you. I don't need that. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. It is a pleasure to be with you today, particularly because of the industries that you represent, the people that you are. I mean, even the conversations that I've heard already. Because I'm very excited about a new set of ideas that have not been published anywhere. I've only spoken at them a couple of times with very small audiences. And in fact, looking at the size of the crowd here, the number of people who have seen what I'm going to tell you today is probably going to increase by almost an order of magnitude. And so I'm very interested in your reaction to that. Yuri asked me to start by talking about summarizing basically what all those three books are. So I've got one chart that will summarize the entire set of ideas that I've been working on for the last 15 years. And to do that is to look at how work has changed, how offerings have changed over time, because in the beginning was an agrarian economy based off commodities, and then we shifted to an industrial economy based off of goods, and then to a service economy. When we shifted to that service economy, what happened is that goods became commoditized. Meaning people treated them like a commodity, where they didn't care who made them, they didn't care about the brand, they didn't care about the features, because they're all pretty much the same anyway. They cared about three things and three things only: price, price, and price. That's when goods have been commoditized. And what we saw over the past few decades is that services have been commoditized as well. And what that means is that goods and services are no longer enough. Goods and services are everywhere being commoditized. So it's time for companies to move to a new level of economic value. And the thesis of the book, The Experience Economy, is that experiences are a distinct economic offering, as distinct from services as services are from goods. Experiences are basically when you use goods as props and services as a stage to engage each and every person in an inherently personal way, and thereby create a memory, which is the hallmark of the experience. So we're shifting into an experience economy where that's where economic value is created today. And that's where the locus of work is being changed. Used to be that work happened on farms in the agrarian economy. Then it moved to factories with the industrial economy. Then it moved to offices with the service economy. And now it's moving to places, experience places, where you engage people in that inherently personal way. Is that with every one of these economic changes, these fundamental changes in the fabric of the economy, comes a new consumer sensibility, a buying criteria, if you will, by which people choose who to buy from and what to buy. So with the agrarian economy, for example, availability was the primary sensibility. All you had to do was get your product to market, and there'd be a ready market for that particular product. That was the key thing in the agrarian economy. When we shifted into an industrial economy, the primary sensibility became cost. That you had to lower your costs as a company to be able to expand out into that new mass market that had been created, to be able to, again, find a market for your particular products. Over the past 50 years, in the latter half of the 20th century, as we shifted into a service economy, then what was the number one consumer sensibility? Think about what was the main thing that consumers have been looking for over the past few decades, and that, of course, is quality. Right? Quality became the primary sensibility. Now, the other ones didn't go away. As a company, you still have to supply availability. You still have to control cost. But now, added on top of that, you have to improve quality. Well, with the experience economy, with a shift into the world becoming a paid-for experience, where we increasingly pay other people to stage these experiences for us, the thing that has naturally arisen is that people increasingly question, well, then what is real and what is not? And increasingly, people want to buy the real from the genuine, not the fake from the phony. So authenticity is becoming the new consumer sensibility. Authenticity is what consumers are looking for today. Across any product, they want authentic commodities like organic food. They want authentic goods like soap that has little bits of nature in it, that comes in slabs rather than packaged. They want authentic services, and they want authentic experiences. So authenticity. So the key business imperative, therefore, today is to render authenticity, to manage the customer perception of authenticity so people perceive you as authentic. And in the book, Authenticity, Jim Gilmore and I give you a number of tools, a number of frameworks for how to think about that and how to render your own offerings, and by extension your business, authentic. There are experience media as well, key experience media. The number one experience media, the one that has been around for all time, we now tend to call real life. Right? Real life is that the medium by which we experience things. The very first technology that enhanced real life was really books, where you could read a book and for the first time you could escape from real life into another place, another time, if only in your imagination. And then basically nothing happened for thousands of years to add technology into that until in the late 1800s you got two new media that came about the same time, movies and radio. And these were very, very different media, and it took a while to sort of figure out what the best way of using them and the best way to create experiences. And then again, there was a little lull until the mid-20th century when TV was brought about. And now a new medium yet, similar to movies, but in fact a distinct medium that people had to design and produce and direct differently. Then in the 1970s, you had two other new media that came about, and that was the gaming consoles, beginning with Atari, and personal computers, such as the Apple I and so forth. And again, it's not just an interface, but a new medium by which we can have experiences. And then in the 1980s is when you got mobility involved, that you're no longer tethered to where these particular technologies were. You could get out of one location and go to any location by being able to take along with you a device through which you could experience things. And that's what mobility provides. And then the last one up there is really this new medium of virtual worlds, of Second Life, of World of Warcraft, of EverQuest, and so forth, is again an entirely new medium for experiences. So you think about how you can play across all of these, not just confining your experiences to real life or to mobile phones, but how can you play across all of these is a key question for today's world. Let me mention the movie The Matrix, which is key at doing this, because what happened with The Matrix is what Henry Jenkins called transmedia storytelling. How many are familiar with that term, transmedia storytelling? He's a professor at MIT. And he uses The Matrix as his key example, and how he, let me read how he defines transmedia storytelling here. As Henry Jenkins says, that a transmedia story unfolds across multiple media platforms, with each new text making a distinctive and valuable contribution to the whole. In the ideal form of transmedia storytelling, each medium does what it does best, so that a story might be introduced in a film, expanded through television, novels, and comics. Its world might be explored through gameplay or experienced as an amusement park attraction. Each franchise entry needs to be self-contained, so you don't need to have seen the film to enjoy the game, and vice versa. Any given product is a point of entry into the franchise as a whole, and reading across the media sustains a depth of experience that motivates more consumptions. And that's exactly what happened with The Matrix. Started off as one movie, became multiple movies. I always want to get rid of Cypher's character in there. And then it had all these different things. You could access it via the comics. You could go online, access both websites that were created by the producers of the movies, as well as fan sites that are adding depth of detail to it. You could access the Animatrix, a set of anime movies that provided depth and backstory and introduced characters. And finally, you could go online and effectively jack in yourself to the world in which the Matrix inhabits. So this transmedia storytelling, I think, is a key thing, particularly when you begin to use the mobile phone and to use other location-based devices as the medium, as the mechanism or the delivery technology by which you can have these various experiences. So let me talk about the main thing that I want to get to, the new framework that I think will provide context towards everything that you're thinking about, as well as context for what has already been explored today in this Mobile Monday, as well as hopefully will be explored in future Mobile Mondays. And it's a very humble framework, right? It's a very humble framework. It merely attempts to redefine the entire universe, right? So you'll have to bear with me as I do this. But if you think about what the universe is, right? The universe is basically a trinity of time, space, and matter. That's what the universe is, right? It's a trinity of these three things. Everything that happens in the entire universe happens, right, via matter inside of space through time. You can take any object, anything that happens in there and trace it back to where it is on each of these three dimensions. And that is reality, right? That is objective truth in that standpoint. This is what the universe is, and we can get into a lot of cosmology if you want to do that. But I want to redefine it a little bit with a book called Future Perfect. Future Perfect is the book that changed my life. I'm here in front of you today because of this book. It was written by Stan Davis in 1987. And in Future Perfect is where he coined the term mass customization. When I was a technologist at IBM, I read that book and realized that mass customization was what we needed to do at IBM, and that caused me to explore it and eventually write a book on it. Well, in his book, the chapter before the one on mass customization, he has a chapter entitled No Matter. Right? No matter. And what he meant by that, he wrote that in the new economy, the value added will come increasingly from intangibles, whose importance does not lie in their material existence. And talk about how you're going to be able to measure the increasing intangibility of companies as it becomes more and more information-based, more and more digital. Right? That's what he meant by no matter. Well, think about now this universe. What is no matter? No matter is extending this backwards in the opposite direction. There's matter, things that have materiality, that have tangibility to them. And then there is no matter, things that do not have materiality, that do not have a tangibility. In Nicholas Negroponte's terms, it's very simple. We got atoms and we got bits. Right? That's what no matter is. Well, if there's no matter, then there must be no space. Right? There must be the opposite of space, intangibility inside of space. So space is physical, no space is virtual. Right? Now we start to bring in the virtual world into this. And finally, if there is time, there must be no time. Time is very linear. Time unspools in front of us. Time we don't have control over. No time is nonlinear. It's asynchronous. It's hyperlinked. We're allowed to jump around and do things out of sequence, such as with transmedia storytelling that we can do. And those are new possibilities. So now what we have is not just a universe, but what I call the multiverse. Not the metaverse. I'm going to talk a little bit about the metaverse, but basically the multiverse. Because this defines not one universe, but 8 different universes. 8 different worlds in which you can inhabit. 8 different realms of this multiverse. All right, so let me go through and describe each of these 8. So you have the physical world, and the exact opposite, the virtual world. So those ones are easy to understand. Everybody understands what those are about. Even if you never experience a virtual world yourself, you know what it is. Now the other 6 get a little more difficult. The next 3, let me start by basing it off of the physical world. So back where you got time, space, and matter, and then change these axes one at a time. So the first thing is think about time, space, and no matter. Time, space, and no matter. So you're in a physical place. You're going through that place in time sequence, but now you're using digital technology to enhance your experience of that place. And that is what we call augmented reality. It sort of defines what augmented reality is being able to take a digital technology and use it to enhance your everyday real-world experience. If there is augmented reality, then there must be augmented virtuality. Right? Augmented virtuality. That's where you're now taking, instead of focus on space, now you're taking a no-space experience that is going on in a time sequence, but adding some physicality to it. So adding physicality to the virtuality, if that makes sense. Well, what is that? Well, we're already seeing that. That's a we. Fourth one down here that I want to talk about is where you're now moving space, matter, and no time. And this is perhaps the most difficult one. This is the one that took me the longest to figure out what it actually is. Because you think about it, you're in physical space, working with physical atoms, but not in time sequence, where you've got things that are out of sequence, out of time, that are nonlinear. And what I realized that it really is what I'm calling warped reality. Warped reality is, think of it like teleportation, where you can, like you can teleport inside a Second Life, as if you could teleport inside of real life. Dan. So now to describe the other three, let me go back to virtual worlds and build on top of it. So virtual worlds, no space, no matter, no time. But now let's change the access from no time to time. What does that mean? Well, you're in this virtual world now, but now you are linear. Now you are connected to real time. What that is in fact a mirror world. A mirror world. Again, a term many of you may be familiar with. How many people know the term mirror world, out of curiosity? Right? A handful of you. Mirror world was actually coined by David Gerlenter, a computer scientist at Yale, in this 1992 book, Mirror World. And what he described there, and he was very prescient at the time, again, this is in 92, he says that he defines mirror worlds as software models of some chunk of reality, some piece of the real world going on outside your window. Oceans of information pour endlessly into the model, so much information that the model can mimic the reality's every move, moment by moment. Right? That's what a mirror, because that's a connection to real time, is what a mirror world has versus the others. And you can think about what is going on with Google Earth and how it is beginning to create a mirror world, again, of the entire world. It doesn't quite have that real-time access to it, but that is the direction that is going. That is what is happening in there as you can zoom down and take a closer and closer level of the real world and where people are right now in real space. You also see happening, taking another view of digital world, going over to New York, into Manhattan and down into the Lower East Side. And with Google Earth, you can look at that object and see what it is, Katz's. Well, actually, there's an entire virtual world that represents the Lower East Side of Manhattan that has just been released in the past few months. And now there's a virtual representation of Katz's inside of there. And that is, again, not yet in real time, not yet a true mirror world, but that's the direction that it's going in, where you're going to be able to see who is there at this moment in time through what? Right? Because they're going to have a mobile device that's going to identify them. And so if they opt in and say, yes, you can identify me, then you're going to be able to interact with those people who are in Katz's in real time, in the real place, when you are there in the virtual place. The next one is, so now you still got digital bits, you still got hyperlink, but now you're operating in real space. Right? Real space with digital technology that is hyperlink, and that's what alternate reality is. Alternate reality games, ARGs, are all about taking a physical space and now overlaying it with a set of digital interactions that happen to you so that you can figure out the puzzle in that and move around, jump around, hyperlink around, such as what Microsoft did with its I Love Bees ARG, alternate reality game, that they used to promote Halo 2. And you're seeing more and more of these happening. Today, the only really applications of it I've seen is in these sort of marketing experiences. God bless you. These sort of things that are used to enhance or get you to think about purchasing this particular product. But I think there's going to be more applications of this alternate reality over time. Finally, right? The last one, I think, if I counted right? The last one is where you are no space, virtual world, no time, hyperlink, but now you're adding a physical level of atoms on this. And what I call that is physical virtuality. Physical virtuality, and this is where you create something physical out of a virtual world, right? Augmented reality, the exact opposite of it. Augmented reality, location-based services, or when you take something digital and add it to the physical world. Here is where you take something physical and add it to the digital world, if that makes sense. Noco is another one where you can basically design anything you want, not just an avatar. You can design anything you want, and they will manufacture it for you. How do they do that? Well, they do that with these desktop fabrication devices that are now out there that sort of layer on using resins or certain other materials. They layer on layer after layer until you create the entire three-dimensional model. Right? It hasn't ever been possible before to create these three-dimensional models of anything that you can design online. Right? Anything. That's taking it to the next level. That's what physical virtuality is. So what this multiverse is, right? Again, it's a new way of thinking about all of the possibilities that you have. to be able to create value inside of your businesses by layering on technology, not just the physical world, but all of the various other ways. That's what the multiverse is, that every one of these, again, are their own universes. They're defined by these three axes. And every one of them is an opportunity for you to create value. And what I think is increasingly going to happen is not just what Henry Jenkins called transmedia storytelling, but you're also going to have transversal experiences. And transversal experiences is where you transverse each of these realms. You don't have to stick in one. You can begin thinking about how you branch out and take your customers through these things to create new experiences that have never before been created. Right? That's what the possibilities are. And what you need to think about doing is what that does is it starts from the virtual world and it begins to encompass all of life. And what you're going to see is this merging of it. Yuri and I were talking last night at dinner, and he used the phrase that we have these parallel lives. Right? We have these parallel lives, that we have this real life that we're living in, and then we have this virtual life, the representation. I was talking to somebody else last week, and remind me of it, as he talks, he was describing to his son what virtual means versus real, and he said, look up is the real world, look down is the virtual world. You know, look up, real world, look down, virtual world. Those are those parallel lives. Well, with mobile technology, we won't have to look down anymore to access the virtual world. We will be able to carry it around with us. We will be able to see through those eyes so that all of this becomes one thing. That starting from that virtual, we'll be able to carry it around to us into the physical world. Or starting from the physical world of real life as being the basic thing, we'll be able to extend out and bring it all with us. That those parallel lives now merge is what I think the multiverse enables. So again, this is what I believe the possibilities are, and what I want you to think about in terms of how you can create value in your companies using the technology that you are working on. And so let me close by saying that, I think that most everybody is here, most everybody is in this industry and is a part of the Mobile Mondays group because you want to change the world. And what I've done is opened your eyes to what that world really consists of. Not one physical world, but 8 different worlds, 8 different realms of this multiverse. So I would encourage you to go forth and change the multiverse. Thank you.